Welcome to Nerd Church. We are back down one due to vaccination side effects, I think, was the diagnosis. So we're down a druid this time around. But she's down but not out. She will be present should you get into any scrapes today. But as a trade-off, we are up a warlock. So
I think you came out ahead.
it seems like it. It seems like it. There depends on the metrics we decide to use. But as a quick recap of the last session, Thomas, since you weren't able to be there, and you may or may not have listened to the recording, we started that last session at a point where your group had just finished fighting essentially an infected and awakened tree on the shores of what amounts to a dammed up lake where the village of Teshiar sits at the mouth of a river. This is an artist's rendering of the town of Teshiar, built as at the place where the river sort of cascades down into this dammed up lake. The party continued their exploration around the perimeter of the lake, with the exception of your dragonborn barbarian who decided to swim out to one of the floating fruit trees, floating orchards, out on the lake and explore a little bit. But eventually they all made their way into town, along with yourself, and explored a bit. And primarily what they discovered were, first, that there were no people to be found anywhere in the village, but that there were some interesting locations, including a long dock area that also encompassed sort of a covered marketplace where a lot of the both fishing boats and boats that are set aside for harvesting fruit were docked. And in addition to that, a meeting place, sort of a meeting hall built into the side of this kind of hillside that looks like it could hold probably most of the villagers of a village of this size for gatherings. They did a fair amount of searching of the village. They found a lot of things left as if they had been sort of put away for the evening. So it, for all intents and purposes, looked like a populated village, but one that everybody had just sort of tidied up for night and then left. But they did not find anyone. Until they got into some interesting little scraps. So there are in place of the villagers, there were a number of animals and other wildlife kind of roaming about this space, including a warthog that got a little prickly down by the docks.
Especially when I tried to hug it.
One of your party was very committed to greeting this warthog with physical affection.
I just wanted to be its friend. Didn't want to be my friend.
It wasn't having it.
No.
No. But in the end, after investigating some different things, the Potom located a hidden door protected with an arcane lock. And as the party gathered back up just outside the village, or on the edges of the village, to sort of rethink their strategy or decide what to do next, as the sunlight faded and twilight fell, they witnessed a transformation as the animals that had been scattered all around the village and many more that were outside of the village returned and proceeded to transform into people, or specifically were-people. And it is at that moment that we paused last time, as the village was revealed to be a village populated
Quite
by
a cliffhanger.
lycanthropes, or
Oh, and they were beckoning us back to the village.
Yeah.
They were waiting. They knew that we were camped just outside, and they were calling to us to.
There was something to, like, wasn't there a, didn't one of them say, this just might be it?
It was a toucan, right?
A toucan.
Yep,
This
there
might
is a
be our chance.
there is a toucan who took early notice of the party, and
and it was also Courtney turning into a bear. Really helped us out.
Oh, the whole warthog thing. Warthog kind of like the bear.
Yeah, so Courtney transforming into
Didn't
a bear
like me.
did sort of
Not the Dragonborn.
did sort of disarm the conflict with the warthog, at least at the time.
Because warthogs famously love bears.
Love bears.
Or warthog.
So that is approximately where we left off, with the sun setting, animals emerging from all around the village, transforming into humanoid versions of themselves, and most of them beginning to sort of go about their day, or I should say evening. But there is a small group of those transformed animals standing on the village side of the river, across the river from you. There is a floating bridge that leads from where you have sort of made your camp and the village proper. The bridge at this point is well lit with torches, and what you see on that side of the bridge awaiting are 4 humanoid creatures. One appears to be some form of were-deer, very delicately featured, slender, not tall, petite, but with obvious sort of deer-like features and big doe eyes, sort of standing back. Front and center is another were-deer, this one a little more robust with a bit of a set of antlers. I don't know how many, I think an 8-point rack. Is that what we say?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
8-point rack.
Yeah, standing a little more.
Sounds like some innuendo.
Yeah, standing a little more proudly,
That's
perhaps front and center.
Don't you just say like 8-point buck or something?
Yeah, it looks like an 8-point buck dude. Standing next to him is a tall and very robust, barrel-chested, thick-armed, hirsute, just hair all over this dude. You, from a distance, you think he's wearing hide armor, but he's actually shirtless. He's just that hairy. And this is clearly someone who is a transformed warthog. Wrinkly face, big snout, tusks, holding a massive spear, sort of tucked over his shoulder, like crosswise, just leaning his arm on it as he holds this probably 10-foot long spear. And then last but certainly not least, on the other side of this buck man or deer man, you see a bespectacled man, probably middle-aged, wearing a sort of, can't tell the fabric, but a sort of a proper gentleman's coat with tails, which on the outside has sort of a blue-gray, but you can see that the inner lining is very brightly colored, and his hair, gray in the front, is shifts sort of into rainbow-colored feathers down the back of his neck and off to the sides. And he has an extremely prominent nose that is almost...
Our little toucan friend.
Yeah, very well could. So these 4 are basically just standing at the edge of the bridge, staring out in your direction, in the direction
Beckoning,
of the
though,
camp. The I don't know that you were necessarily beckoned, but
Invited? I don't know.
Gestured toward.
I feel like there was like somebody had said something to the effect of like, "Well, are you gonna come back?" or something like that.
maybe that's true. I also didn't go back and listen to the recording, so I will trust that is the case.
Did you?
I was also a little delirious at that point, so
You
I could
was.
have imagined that.
Yeah.
Well, either way, I think where you find yourself now as a party is essentially standing across the river from this group. They know you're there.
Mm-hmm.
You know that they know you were just all up in their village.
Yeah, this sounds like the right episode for you to be delirious and
Yeah.
hallucinating.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, even Potom was a little like off kilter as he couldn't get through a door. He was,
I was not happy about it.
and he did leave their community center in shambles.
Oh man, that's why they want you to come back. That's why they're upset.
Yeah.
Fix our floor.
Yeah, they did try a lot of things to get into that. So what's up?
Oh yeah, the magical door was under the floor in their community center.
Yeah, tore up some really nice parquet work.
Oh, I'm sure they're thrilled.
I think I restacked the lumber nicely.
Hey, Warthog, are you gonna try to kill me?
Are you yelling that across the
Yes, I am.
river? Okay. He doesn't respond aloud, but he does sort of grunt and give you a sort of a steely stare.
Can Air roll a it's an insight check or something just to get like what are their goals by staying at the end of this pier?
Yeah, you give it a
Something
try.
like that.
I would imagine they want to talk to us.
Yeah, in a friendly way or in a
Yeah, let's go talk to him.
I mean,
Oh, okay.
Let's go talk to him.
well,
I
let's
bother?
just see what what your insight check
I
says.
mean, I really like that.
But
bird.
ultimately, I think that at this point, Potom would just be like, they know that we're here. Might as well just go.
Yeah, I do like that bird too. That bird seemed very nice.
13.
Okay. I mean, the vibe you get
If
is
they want to talk to you.
I want to talk to you.
the vibe you get is anticipatory,
Okay.
and each of them. I mean, the smaller you can tell from this distance female were-deer looks a little nervous.
Okay.
Like she's almost physically hiding behind the larger deer.
That's good.
The Birdman, with his bright colors, looks sort of eager and is kind of gently hopping from foot to foot. The Wereboar looks intimidating.
Okay.
Doesn't necessarily look outright hostile from this distance. It's hard to tell, but definitely looks imposing and is the only one holding a weapon.
Okay.
And then the deer in the center, the male deer, just looks calm and patient.
Okay.
Definitely, let's talk to that deer, okay?
Well, yeah, this can't go any worse than the
Being
walking
attacked.
castle. I mean, so.
Just as
Oh,
just
right.
as a side note, you know how I know that the were-deer isn't named Giannis? Because he doesn't have 50 points.
Okay.
Oh dear.
Oh
Oh,
dear.
dear.
All right.
Yeah, let's go talk to him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Come to the end of the bridge where we can yell a little bit first. Keep a slight amount of distance between
Sure.
us.
I agree with that. I think that, maybe having
Some amount of caution.
having some peace negotiations across
Yeah.
the bridge.
That seems like the exact opposite of what Potom would do.
Oh.
It seems like you would just go right up to them.
That's kind of a Freya thing.
It's actually, yeah. I mean,
Kind of a Freya thing.
Potom is actually all about the moving slowly and the caution part. But I do like that you're a Potom fan.
Sort of.
Oh.
Sort of, you might do that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Never know what Pom's gonna do.
Never know
That's
what
kind of the fun
Pom's
part of
gonna
Pom.
Wild card.
Well, so to be clear, you are heading out onto the bridge. You are stopping at the edge of the bridge.
Yeah,
I mean,
Like-
how far is the bridge? I mean, how long is the bridge?
It's a good 40, 50 feet.
Let's
Yeah,
come up to
You
the
can
edge.
shout
of the,
across that.
come up to the edge of the bridge first, or a little bit onto the bridge,
Okay.
part way down.
I just say we match them. Where they're
just
standing on their
standing
side of the
there,
bridge, we'll stand on our
imposing-
side of the bridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Equal footing.
Sounds good.
Hello!
Greetings.
Greetings! Are you friendly? That's what Freya says.
Okay. The
Good tidings.
Good tidings, friends!
the deer
Thou
man
shalt-
in the center kind of raises his hand in greeting and he calls back. We might ask you the same.
We bear you no harm.
Ill will, yeah.
Ill will.
No ill-
We
ill will.
bear you no ill will.
Thou hast.
I think that Potom will just kind of lean over to Aaron and be like, right?
Yeah. I think Air's just very confused about what to make of the situation.
Yeah.
And
Right.
she's-
I know I got an elf on my side. She wants to be friends with them too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure your druid wants
Yes.
to cross this bridge.
Yeah, too bad she can only hear out of one ear,
Oh,
Too soon.
as we make an ear joke every single time.
Every 4 minutes.
I mean, ultimately, Potom definitely doesn't want violence, but at this point, they are harboring a secret door that has the axis of evil on the other side of it. So the jury is still out on these folks. So let's take her easy.
What did the door look like? Out of curiosity. Did it look?
It was round.
So
It had a magical
the
lock.
tracking device led Potom to the center of this meeting hall. The meeting hall was set up sort of like a theater in the round.
Sure, that's I guess really what I'm asking.
And there's sort of a very low stage kind of
Mm-hmm.
in the center. That'll be the
Pizza.
Thinking like
pizza,
this
probably.
whole like little amphitheater.
Here, let's pause for a second.
Yeah.
They did conceal a magic door in their community center.
It's just irresponsible.
At the very least, grossly negligent. They may not be liable. We'll see. Okay, so you are
At the bridge.
at the bridge. You're trying to investigate the bridge for traps. Is that what I heard?
That's what I was. Yeah, I think Air was invited to check for traps.
Okay.
And Air also is like a little confused by the situation because she's also like, we just walked past on this, but I'll look.
I don't know
Yeah.
how traps work.
Yeah. Check for traps. Okay.
Seems better than not checking for traps.
I would like to look to see, see
Yeah.
if there's traps.
Yeah, go for it. I think in this case, I'm going to ask you for a perception check, not an investigation
Sure.
check, because unless you want to obviously and blatantly investigate the bridge for traps in front of these 4 people, the bridge you just walked over a few hours
Yeah.
ago
Sure.
twice.
While that is
What
happening,
are you saying? There's not traps there?
is there any chance that I can scan the village just beyond the bridge, beyond these 4 people,
For traps?
to see if there's anybody else lying in wait, hiding?
Sure, make a perception check.
I rolled 12.
Okay. You don't see any signs of traps on this bridge. It
Looks like a bridge?
A lot like the bridge you were on a little while ago when you
Hey.
came out to camp.
When they transformed, maybe there was a trap in there that transformed somehow. I don't
mean,
know stuff like this.
Maybe it's a werebridge.
Maybe it's a wear bridge. Is
You
the
don't
short
know.
answer. You
It's
don't
always better to be safe than sorry.
know. Yeah.
16.
Right.
16. So there are quite a few other people in this village. From where you're standing, you don't see any that appear to be like attached to this group or like lying in wait or positioned or anything. What it really looks like is what any other village of its size might look like first thing in the morning. You see a bunch of people sort of seem to be moving around and starting their day, maybe getting their kids moving, or people opening their shops, or
Going about their business.
yeah, if it weren't night, it would strike you as the morning rituals of a village kind of waking up for the day.
Why is it night and everyone's doing that?
That's a good question.
Because it's a weird, interesting village.
Well, I don't know what else we're going to do other than
It's
go
a
and talk to them,
nocturnal
right?
village.
The Birdman kind of leans up to the Deer Man and says something that you can't hear. And in response to this, the Warthog or Boar Man clearly does hear and doesn't seem to like what he heard. And he moves and actually steps in front of the Deer Man for a second, putting his back to you, and seems to be sort of gesticulating and saying something. And after about 30 seconds of sort of back and forth, you see his whole stature kind of deflate a little. And he steps to the side, not meekly, but clearly gives way to whatever he's been told, and steps back into the position that he was standing in. But he still looks ready, and he's still looking at you with not anger, but intensity, let's say. But at that point, the Deer Man in the center steps forward and takes about 10 long steps out into the middle of the bridge, not quite the middle of the bridge, and he calls out to you. He says, "Greetings and welcome to Teshiar. I understand that the nature of our village can be surprising. But you should understand that it was just as surprising to us to find you here. We get very few travelers and visitors, and even fewer who ever discover the true nature of our community. Not only that, some of your activities in our village were concerning, to say the least, to some among us." And at this, he sort of glances back at the Warthog Man. However, there are some among us who believe that not only are you not hostile, but that you may signal an opportunity that we have long waited for. And so, I'm taking a risk, but I would like to invite you to sit down and have a conversation. Perhaps we can be of service to one another, or perhaps we can satisfy your curiosity and send you on your way. My name is Fensel. I am the chieftain of this village. I bid you safe welcome to Teshiar.
Can I roll another insight check?
Sure.
Get a 2.
While you're doing that, Potham will just turn and be like,
At
"I
20.
feel like I've seen this several times before. On my voyage across the sea, there was a security officer who was always really kind of overbearing, and the captain had to always kind of shut him down every single time. He was like, 'Let's raise shields,' and the captain would be like, 'No, I don't think that that's what we should do. Stand down, Mr. Borf,' something like that. Anyway, I just honestly feel like this is a peaceful interaction, and that we should meet that with peace."
Oh, well.
100%.
Insight
He
checks
also
are
got
not
a 23.
violent.
23 is
Well,
a great roll.
it's a nat 20, actually.
That's very nice. Also, you should know Pando's already walking towards this guy.
Right.
She did not
Good
hesitate.
tidings.
She did not hesitate at all. As soon as she heard safe welcome, she was strolling forward
She
with
was
a
like, yes.
with a big smile on her face. She is so excited to enter this village.
I'm pretty excited.
With a 23, you get a pretty sharp read on this guy up close. He is, he's obviously nervous, but you don't get the sense that he is disingenuous with his offer.
They seem desperate.
Not desperate,
Mm-hmm.
but anxious. Anxious that perhaps this interaction, anxiously hopeful, I think is the read that you get.
Mm-hmm.
So you've seen a look like this before, maybe on the face of someone that you were in your past pressuring to try to get information to take down a bigger target.
Sure.
So this person's kind of like, I hope you're one of those moments where the person you were putting the screws to was like, if you could protect me from the problem I have, then I'd love to help you.
Yeah.
But I'm worried you're not that big of a fish, and that the big fish that I have a problem with is gonna like eat
Dominate
you and
you.
then eat me.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the vibe that you're getting here. This is a person who's clearly respected, but also you can tell is very protective of everybody who's standing behind him, of this whole village. Feels responsible, and not protective in an aggressive way, but protective in a like, I don't want to take risks that are going to put my people at risk. So that's what I think the read is here.
Mm-hmm.
And as you are kind of getting this read, Pando strides forward and puts her hand out and says, we are so grateful and so fascinated to learn more about your village and your people. And did you know that you're so close to this incredible source of energy from nature further up this place is amazing. And Fensel, appears a little taken aback by her enthusiasm, but you do catch just a slight crooked smile at the corner of his mouth in response. And he turns, and in like a moment, she's arm in arm with him, walking back up the bridge towards the rest.
That seems
I'd like to. Could I make an insight check on my werebore?
Yeah.
Coming up on this guy, and as we walk up, and he and I come, tusk to claw.
Sure.
Okay.
Go for it.
Oh.
What?
Never mind.
Downstairs.
Nothing.
Yes. So, you get the same read on him as you get closer.
Yes.
Hang on.
Freya kind of comes up next to him like Pando did to Deer Man. Where Deer? Kind of like tries to pretend to take his arm.
Oh man. Make a persuasion check at disadvantage.
Coming on real strong here.
You've played this game with him once before, and
I
it didn't go
did.
well.
We got
Just like, get off me.
we got a 9.
Oof.
Boy. With a 9, he doesn't attack you,
We'll just start there. He doesn't attack you.
but he does sort of aggressively knock your arm away, and he moves several steps off, and now his spear is at the ready, not just leaning
And
casually up against.
I feel
Okay.
at this point that Panem riding on the exocomp, has the exocomp just kind of on Freya's arm, like.
We're good. We're good. Don't worry. We're fine.
Fensel makes quick introductions. He first turns to the sort of warthog man and he says, "This is Rent. Rent is the chief protector of the village. His responsibility is the safety and well-being of everyone here, and he coordinates both the scouts and the guards." He then turns to the Birdman, and he says, "This is Samuel. Samuel is," and he sort of almost apologetically looks at Samuel out of the corner of his eye, and he says, "A prominent thinker in our village. Philosopher, perhaps?" And Samuel pushes his way in front of Fensel, in front of all of you, and says, "Samuel, but you can call me Sam. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. Philosopher is a grandiose term. I merely an observer of the world and considerer of the great mysteries. It is wonderful to have you here. Something perhaps that we've been awaiting for some time, wouldn't you say, Rent?" And Rent just sort of grunts non-committally.
So he's unemployed, is really what
He's got nothing going on. No prospects. And then he finally gestures behind him, and the small sort of doe-eyed woman who, as you get a little closer, see is seems quite young. It's hard to tell at a glance, but a human equivalent, maybe late teens. He says, "And this is my daughter Yen. She assists me in the record keeping and secretarial work of administering the needs of the village. If you will come with me, we have but a brief time where it is safe for us to speak."
Does that mean we're going to the community center?
No. And he proceeds to walk down towards the marketplace and docks.
So Sam, so what did he mean that we only have a short time?
Well, you see,
That's right, get Sam talking.
yeah, and Sam does begin to talk very rapidly. You see, those who observe the behaviors in the village and who keep a close watch on our behaviors tend to rest at this period of the day. And it is our observation of their habits that, and it's right about this point that Rent steps in and slams his spear butt down on the ground on the boardwalk in between you and Sam. And he gives Sam a stern look and says, "That's quite enough. They do not need to know everything. You will stay quiet, and Fensel will decide what can be shared. Now move along."
We're right here, you guys.
Well, I definitely disagree. I think we should know everything.
He ignores you. And as this is going on,
I'm running on a mechanical monster.
the rest of them make their way.
I ignored him ignoring me.
Well, I didn't even notice. They make their way down the hill, down the wooden stairs, out to this long pier that extends out into the lake. So we described this last time, but this is a very long, probably 150-foot long double pier that for most of its length is covered over, sort of like a Bridges of Madison County kind of a deal. But it is a double wide pier with space in between for boats to dock and space on the outside for boats to dock. Underneath the covering, the sides are open so that boats can come in and out. The left-hand side is set aside for fishing boats, and the right-hand side is set aside for these fruit harvesting boats. And essentially, this is where all the produce that comes into the village is both processed, and then also it is a marketplace, and there are stalls set up both inside and outside this covered area. There's quite a bit of activity in here already. As you can see, many of the villagers have now come down and have started untying boats, pulling out oars and starting to set up their various nets and bags and bushels and things to head out and do what they do.
Anything special about the goods that are available, or is it kind of the typical goods you would find in a?
Oh yeah, we kind of talked about the fruit last time, didn't we?
Yeah. So I mean, there's really no goods available right now because this is sort of the start of the day. So they're headed out. Like fishermen are heading out to fish.
Okay.
The folks who are maintaining the floating orchards are heading out to gather. So this is their version of morning. They're headed out to do this harvesting. There's some day-old produce here that's probably available for folks who want to come and grab something maybe for breakfast or whatever. But there's really just two primary things in this area. It's fish that are caught straight out of the river, and it's about 4 different kinds of produce that are harvested from these massive floating trees that are
Fish and
making
fruit.
their way around the lake. Fish and fruit. That's primarily.
So we're following Fenster, right?
Fencel.
Fencel.
Fencer.
Fenster.
Fencel.
Like all the way down the stock.
Yeah, so he is continuing to walk down, and as he heads under the covered area, he sort of holds to the right, where the fruit harvesting boats are all lined up. And about 3/4 of the way down the dock, he stops at a sort of medium-sized boat, and he hops aboard. And his daughter Yen hops aboard right after him, and they both turn and look at you and gesture you onto the boat.
Guess we're going on the boat.
Guess we're going on the boat.
Guess we're going on the boat.
So,
Okay.
I mean,
So when all of you board,
Is Brent coming on the?
Samuel hops on there immediately, and then Rent is the last to board, sort of positioning himself up in front, still holding his massive spear, and he uses it to sort of push the boat off from the dock, and the Fencel grabs one of the oars, and he looks to you and sort of invites you to sit, sort of asks you to help row. And all of you make your way out onto the surface of the lake. And it doesn't take a long time. It's not a massive lake, but about 20 minutes of rowing takes you out amidst this sort of floating orchard. And as you settle in, floating among some of the larger floating trees, you see Fencel sort of take a deep breath and sigh as if he both feels a little safer here and also is now nervous that it's time to start talking. And he throws a simple anchor over the side and pulls in the oars, and then turns to you and says, well, now I need to ask you the most important question, which is, what has brought you to our village?
At this point, I think Panem will just hold up his tricorder. You have a very dangerous piece of equipment underneath your community center. And that's what brought us here.
We've been tracking it for a while.
I think Air is acutely aware that that they've been isolated on this boat, and has taken note of that. For the record,
Air will
Well-
remember this.
Freya, but the other thing that happened is Freya's actually a
Saunter up
very
to-
good swimmer. She has a really long tail. She looks like an alligator in the water.
You saunter up to the exocomp, you're like, you're with me, right?
yeah, that's
We
exactly
gotta
right.
defend this.
Yeah, we got this, right? Yeah. Just like a little elbow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tink, tink.
Tink, tink, tink. Yeah. I just give you the signal, right?
So Fencel looks very curiously at your device, and then looks at Samuel and says, do you have any idea what this is? And Samuel, eyes big, takes a deep breath and prepares to expound on something.
I'm not convinced he knows anything about anything.
And then a moment later says, "What? No." However, it seems clear to me that if their goal lies beneath the sealed door, and if they're seeking out what lies there, then perhaps our goals are aligned. And it is at this time that Rent speaks up and says, "We know nothing of their goals. They are outsiders, and they put us all at risk. Even being out here speaking to them puts the entire village at risk. My family, my children, your families are all at risk even having this conversation. They will kill them."
Potham pulls out the map that was constructed, and he unfurls it, and he goes, "How long have all of these been here?"
Are the map you're referencing the pillars?
Yeah.
The map, the map of the pillars
design,
in the
yeah.
forest?
The geometric patterns and
Who are you showing the map to?
Everyone.
Okay. No one reacts except Samuel. Rent has no idea. It looks
confused.
totally confused by why you're answering, why you're responding to what he just said
With a question.
by whipping out a map of something he's never seen. Both Fensel and Yen don't look as flabbergasted as Rent does, but they don't seem to recognize what you're showing them. But Samuel's eyes get very big.
Because I'm going to just venture a guess that these haven't always been here.
So Samuel's eyes are very big, but when you say that, he opens his mouth again and he says, "Oh, no. No. That's fascinating. What you have there is fascinating and wonderful, and I have a near exact copy in my own residence, and we should spend a lot of time talking about it because
I'm starting to feel that same way.
yes, it's truly amazing, and there's wonders to be explored. But it has
Just the mere mathematical probabilities of all these things.
Thank you. Which I've been saying. And at this point, Rent just grunts, and Fensel puts his hand on Samuel's shoulder, and he says, "Yes. But no. What you have observed has nothing to do with what we are dealing with or what lies beneath the community center. I still contend that it may be connected in some loose way that we have yet to discover, but the very real danger that Rent is describing comes from a person, not a perhaps mystical thing."
Is it a person? Or a group of people?
So this is again where Rent interrupts. Mm-hmm. "Enough of this. There is no proof that we can trust these people. They are strangers, and every bit of information you give them violates the agreement and puts our families at risk. This needs to stop right now, Fensel. If it were up to me, they would be sinking to the bottom of this lake."
Oh, I swim really well.
I think Air.
So I see that you're the one that stands in the way of progress.
Oh, Rent, I really feel that we've got off. We absolutely bear you no harm, and at the end of the day, if you don't feel like if giving us information is truly compromising you, we are not trying to force you to put yourself in a compromised way. We do not want to do that.
I think Air's a little more blunt, and she's just like, "You called the meeting. What can we do to help you?
And we
What do you
gotta
want
get
from
through
us?
that door.
Right. What can we do to help you?
So this is where Fensel sort of takes control of the conversation again. And he says, Samuel may be correct in his guess. Rent is certainly correct in his assertion that our conversation endangers our people. I have taken a measured but significant risk in even allowing this conversation to take place. It is my hope that either you can help us or we can find a way for you to depart with the risk being mitigated. No one else having known that this conversation took place. Certainly none among my people will speak of it. And this Rent grunts again at that statement, as if he doesn't agree.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us what we can do for you.
Make a persuasion check. Or somebody make a persuasion check, whoever
Okay,
is
I will.
putting this forward.
23.
Hmm.
So 19. Not nearly 20.
Fensel looks at you and seems to sort of brace himself. And he looks at Rent, a sort of a warning look. And then he says, I'm going to tell you a brief story of our village's history. And what I need to ask of you before I tell you the story is that if upon hearing it, you are not certain that you can help us, I need to ask that you would depart this village as quickly as possible and never share with anyone what you have seen here.
Well, I think that is a very large ask, specifically because the evil that lies beyond that door has the potential to not just affect your families, but affect families around the globe. This isn't just your village that's in danger. This is world-ending power that we need to stop. So I can't say that I am going to leave your village if I don't give you the answer that you are looking for, because my mission is larger than that.
This is where Freya puts her arm on him right now, too.
I want you to roll a persuasion check also, please.
Not what he's good at, but he pulls it off. 19.
Wow.
Passion.
Passion, that's what it needed.
And sometimes transparency builds trust. Fensel looks at you and says, you honor me with your honesty. You must understand that for more than 150 years, this village, for all intents and purposes, has not existed to the outside world. Teshiar, to anyone outside, has been nothing but a rumor or a myth. And we have kept it that way, very intentionally, because those of us that live in this community are persecuted in the wider world. This village was formed as a safe haven for those of us who have been cursed. And at the word curse, Samuel's feathers kind of fluff out, and Fensel looks over at him and says, or blessed.
Mm-hmm.
All interpret the condition in their own way. But any of us who have found our souls and bodies blended with that of an animal, either from birth or through some happenstance, well, let us just say that we have a hard time integrating in the typical village or town or city in the empire or any of the vassal states. And so what we have carved out here is a small, safe space for those of us who bear this burden or walk this path. There is an enchantment laid over this village by the founding members who have long since passed. A group of fairly powerful spellcasters who took this form on themselves by their own choosing. They wove a weave of natural shadow, reversed the circadian rhythms of this space, and created a way to camouflage us from the wider world. As you saw, we awaken at dusk. We take on our forms only when the concealment of night allows it. And in the day, we are protected by forms that mimic the forms in nature. For well over a century, that has kept us safe and hidden. But about 5 years ago, an explorer, and at this Rent interrupts, an interloper, yes, wandered into the village and stayed, much like you, and observed and discovered our secret. And when he did, he initially reached out to us with gestures of peace and offers of generous support and help. And I must be honest, he was helpful for a time. And in return, we tried to help and be generous as well. He was a seeker of a safe space, just like us. This Estereth Tentathian. He was an elf of some small nobility, fleeing what he claimed was the wrath of the emperor. All he wanted was a safe place to do his research and to stay hidden. And because of what he had done for us, reinforcing some of the wards around our village, protecting some of our young ones, we made an exchange, we made an accord, and we helped him to build his safe haven underneath our community center, hidden. But over time, he began to change. At first, it was small things, small disrespects, frustration, short-temperedness. And 2 or 3 years into his stay in our village, we suddenly found that the door to his haven, his laboratory, was no longer accessible to us. It had been locked in a way that none of us could penetrate. Suddenly there were secrets. We started to observe strange happenings, hear strange sounds in the night, or our night, your day. We started to observe Estereth, unbeknownst to him, we thought, as he journeyed out into the woods and brought back samples and later brought back specimens and creatures that he had captured from the wilderness. What we didn't realize is that Estereth knew exactly what we were doing. He was well aware that he was being observed. He was not pleased. It was only about a year ago that whatever thin facade he was holding on to at that point shattered. It happened on the day that he took some of our children. And it's at this moment that you hear Rent breathe very slowly and deeply through his nose, like he's trying to control his temper. And Yen, Fensel's daughter, puts her hand on his arm as if to provide support. And Fensel goes on, says, Samuel observed the wizard capturing my son, Yarbo, Rent's only daughter, and 2 more children from the village. He captured them during the day when they were in their bestial forms, and he took them into the laboratory and isolated them from our ability to see or contact them. In the evening, when we took our forms again, we hammered on the door until he opened it, and we confronted him, demanding the return of our children, to which he responded that if we did not do everything he commanded, they would be executed in horrible ways. And to help reinforce his point, he sent us a gift, the left hand of Rent's daughter. He has been the real leader of this village now for well over a year, and we have not seen our children in that time, except occasionally when he will parade one of them out during the day to prove that they still live. His threats have gone beyond just our children, though. Had it not gotten worse, some of us may have been brave enough to sacrifice our children to remove this man and protect the rest of the village. But at this point, he has minions, creatures that respond to his call, and we know very well that he could wipe out this village in a single day, while all of us are trapped in our other forms. And we cannot risk it. If he had any idea that we were having this conversation, many of my people would die in the morning. And yet, Samuel has been telling me for some time that this situation could not last forever. That the gods or the world or the wild would at some point send us an opportunity. That the twisting threads of fate and the great pattern would align themselves to a moment. And I wonder if perhaps this is not that moment. So this is where I must ask you, and again, I appreciate your honesty. Will you and can you help free us from this man? It is
Our goals may align.
So what I've heard here is that if we bang on the door enough, you'll answer. And during the day, he comes out sometimes.
And he's a man.
And he's a man.
We
Yeah.
can, we
And
can, we
a
can,
man that we know and are searching for.
and we can kill men.
I cannot promise the safety of your children. But with everything that I have in my power, I will try to protect them.
I long ago accepted that Yarbo may be beyond saving. And though I am desperate to return him to my side, our sides, and the rest of the children, that he has taken away. What we most need is to remove our village from this threat. There are dozens of children here, and mine cannot be placed ahead of any of them.
Rent, what is the name of your daughter?
For the first time, you see Rent hesitate and show a different emotion than just frustration and anger. He sort of chokes up a little bit, and he says, "Her name is Truffle."
Delicious.
Delicious, he said, out of character.
Yes.
I agree.
The mushroom or the chocolate kind?
Like the pig.
Can I just have the clarification?
The pig. Yeah.
Oh, the truffle pig.
Pigs do love truffles.
Pigs do love truffle.
Yeah, so this is the point where I think Rent would speak up and say, "This is all very well, and apparently you've decided," and he looks sort of angrily down his long nose at Fensel, "that we are to trust these outsiders. But I have yet to hear any clear plan about what we will actually do. The man is extremely powerful. He has dominated us and all of our efforts in the past. Every moment we've attempted resistance, he has crushed.
Mm-hmm.
When does this start to sound like reality and not just wishful thinking?"
Well, how about you tell us what you can about
Yeah.
About
his
him.
behaviors? What have you tried before in the past? What can we expect once we get through the door? Because, I mean, I've been traveling with this party for a while, and we are extremely talented. I understand what his research can do, as I strive to, because his research is my perfection. And I understand what his research can do when in the wrong hands. And that is what I'm dedicating my life to protecting, is my research falling into the wrong hands. Which is why I believe this man needs to be defeated.
So this is where, for the first time, Yen speaks up. So little doe-eyed Yen says, "Well, I could offer some perspective, at least. You see, I sketched the designs for the underground haven, so I have a clear map in my mind of what lies beneath the door. Now, I should be quick to point out I've not been down there for years, and so anything that he's done in the meantime to change or adapt that space is beyond me."
Potham's already got the paper and the
Yeah.
ink out. Anything at this point is helpful.
So the space. Hang on, I'm trying to get this.
Do you want to share this? So that you
No,
don't
I'm okay.
Oh.
That's good.
No.
The space that we built for him has, it's essentially one very large space, but is divided into two levels. They're open to each other, just separated by a broad set of stairs. The upper tier is where you enter upon descending the main staircase, and it is set up primarily as a storage space and living area. So there are many significant shelves, enough space to store barrels and casks and crates and flasks and things of that nature. He he utilizes a vast array of supplies and gathers many specimens and has many demands for us for both foodstuffs and specimens harvested from the forest around us.
What kind of specimens are you harvesting for him?
Fensel pipes in here and says, yeah, that is an interesting question that may also be relevant. Early on, primarily the specimens that he cared about were all flora. He wanted samples of herbs and flowers and fruits. And then over time it progressed to all types of plants. He was particularly interested in the aquatic floating trees, and then shifted his requests much more into any of the trees and shrubbery that surrounded the lake, until most recently when his demands shifted to fauna. And in the last 3 to 6 months, everything that he does not collect himself, that he demands from us, is some form of animal. He has not made a demand for one of us in some time, but that seemed to be his eventual goal. We believe he may also at some point have captured a humanoid of some kind other than our children, some unfortunate wanderer through the wilderness that he stumbled upon during the day, but we didn't get a good look at who it was. So at this, Yen speaks back up and says, the entire space down below is approximately 150 feet by 80 feet, a broad rectangle. The lower space is reserved for his laboratory, and while I can't offer any specifics about his equipment, we were asked, or at the time we assisted him in constructing a set of large glass cylinders that he described as experimental chambers. I don't know much about that, but he wanted them to be liquid tight and able to be sealed. And he had a number of interesting gadgets that he dragged down there. None of us have ever gotten a really good look at the work that he does. As soon as it was constructed, it became his private space, and it was not customary for us to spend much time down there. At this point, Samuel pipes in just briefly and says, well, I did spend some time down there once.
I bet you did.
He'd only been around for about a year, but I was, as you can imagine, extremely curious, and of course, the arcane lock had not been installed yet. There was a moment where he disappeared for more than a day. He was off wandering, and we weren't even entirely sure if he'd return. And I thought, well, it wouldn't hurt to just have a peek. And so I did, and I must tell you, it was fascinating. At least early stages of whatever laboratory he was setting up down there, he's doing some very curious things. One of these tubes was filled to the brim with branches and twigs from some of the local trees, and it was flooded with sort of a liquid that was attached to what appeared to be almost like a metal cage with a glowing jewel in the center. And the whole thing was pulsing with an odd energy and sort of a bright, vibrant green. It was really quite fascinating. However, I did sort of assume that he would not want to discuss it in detail, knowing that he had not invited me into his space. And so, unfortunately, I hesitated to bring it up in conversation and ask the many questions that were running through my head. But it's clear to me that he's dabbling in some kind of study of the essence of life, perhaps. It's very interesting.
We might have to go back to that tree. Since we're out here, is there a chance that we could just stop right over there? Bottom points out to
Sure.
where we fought the tree.
So do you know anything about these fighting trees?
These trees, they fight.
These trees, they fight. We had to fight this tree. It was very bizarre.
No, there's confusion about. There's no response to this idea of fighting trees.
Okay.
You know what? Never mind.
Yeah, it's really strange. It's really strange. It had never really happened to me before. We had to fight this tree.
Right. Anyway, we had to fight this tree. And I think that there's a link between your story, Samuel, and, well, the corpse of this tree that is right over there.
Okay. So you row your way over, and when you get there, there is a fallen tree there that is split open. But it just looks like a rotten log.
Hey, but you got a jar full of goo.
I did get a jar full of goo. Can I dig around in there a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah, I'd
Make
like to.
make an investigation check.
You got it. 25.
Oh my gosh.
Excellent.
So as you dig into this tree, while at a glance it appears to be simply a very old, rotten log, as you get in a little deeper, there are some obvious signs of what you witnessed in the battle. So first of all, there are some pretty hefty blade marks in the trunk, right, that have been chopped away. It's weird because it looks like they probably were that they probably happened a long time ago. Like after your battle, clearly the degradation and breakdown of this tree was very rapid. The second thing you notice is, so besides this sort of rapid decay that has experienced since you defeated this thing, on the inside of the trunk, you do find they almost look like little pockets where the beetles that exploded out of here may have been nesting. So the inside of the trunk is sort of coated with these almost Swiss cheese style holes or indentations that are all of a very similar size, and it looks like nothing more than like a blister that something burst out of. The whole interior is lined with that, but also extremely like it's rotting away.
It's not here. Not what I expected to be here.
How are the villagers reacting to our insistence
Bottom,
about
like
this
ripping
tree?
a tree trunk apart.
Yeah. I think they're just kind of watching with curious faces.
Of all the people we could have put our trust in,
Yeah,
we chose the insane people.
definitely think Rent looks frustrated and concerned, and sort of raising an eyebrow is like, so that's the tree you fought?
Bottom, you should show him the
Looks
goo.
defeated.
Look at check out the goo. Check out the tree goo. Show them the tree goo next.
I don't think that the tree goo has much to... Where's the cage? Where is the battery? It's concerning that it's not here.
Samuel says, that what's not here? What were you expecting to find in this rotten log?
Bottom will just trudge over and climb up onto the chair of the exocomp and open up the back of the chair. This is how I've always kind of seen it. There's this cabinet inside, and then he pulls the cabinet off to the side, and back there is the glowing battery of the exocomp, the heart of the exocomp. And he went, "This is what I was looking to find. What you saw in the glass chamber."
So Samuel's eyes get big when he sees that. He goes, "Ooh, that's amazing. I have no idea what that is, but it looks amazing."
Thank you. I'm pretty proud of it. It's the largest one I ever made.
I do have to say, though, it looks, well, I guess vaguely reminiscent of what I saw, but this is vastly more complex, vastly more,
I thought it was going the other way. It's very pedestrian.
compared to what you're showing me now. What I saw looked like a simple wire box
Crude.
with a chip of ruby in it. This is something entirely, I'm getting cross-eyed just looking at it.
That's because his research is my perfection. And once I realized what I had accomplished, I secreted it away. But the idea of what could be was still out there. And that idea is what is lying below your village. Again, my life's work of trying to keep that idea from falling into the wrong hands. And what you described in the glass chamber sounded a lot like, if Bottom gestures down to the tree that he was just still has all over him now.
Yeah.
What I thought I was going to find, a rudimentary something in there. And so maybe the secret does lie in the ooze? Oh great, now I'm turning into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Ooh, it sort of rolls off the tongue.
So maybe that's it. Closes the cabinet and he ting 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 pulls the pink goo out. Or the purple goo?
Green.
Green.
It was green glowing goo.
Yeah.
Oh, green glowing.
Maybe it was purple. Was it purple?
I definitely had
I thought it was
purple in
purple.
my
I thought it was
head.
purple. Yeah.
Let's see here.
No, you're right. You're right. It was purple.
I think it was purple.
Yeah.
Purple tree fungus.
Yeah, purple tree fungus goo.
Yep, that's what I have in here.
Yep, you're right.
But I said Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so you
Yeah,
went to
yeah,
green.
we went straight to
Yeah.
green goo. Yeah. None of them seem to recognize
Samuel,
that.
you wouldn't happen to have a workshop?
Laboratory.
No, not per se. More of a...
A tinkerer's shed.
Tinker.
No. All of my tinkering happens in my mind palace.
An armchair tinkerer.
So I have maybe more what you'd call a simple library / observatory /
Meditation room.
Yes, it's a reflection space.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not really a hands-on applied science kind of man. More to think big thoughts,
Yeah.
Great.
like a thought leader.
Like a
Can we sweep some stuff off
ideas,
the
man.
table in your area? And then you can stand over my shoulder and offer me your deep thoughts while we work on this problem together.
He doesn't want reality to hold him back. That's what it is.
More of a dreamer, an innovator. I like
Yeah.
it. To disrupt.
Imagineer.
Imagine here. Rent interrupts again and says, "We're short on time. If we do not separate and return to our normal patterns shortly, we will be discovered. This conversation needs to end."
Well, Rent, we've been in the village. And we are currently have a camp set up just outside of the village, which both kind of seem like dangerous places for us to be. Mm-hmm. So we need to find a place to hide until we come up with a plan to liberate your village.
Yes.
Rent and Fensel look at each other, and then they look at Samuel, and then they look back at each other, and Fensel kind of nods, and Rent sighs deeply, like he's not happy about the answer that they've both arrived at. And then Fensel says, Samuel, would you please host our guests in your reflection chamber? I would be delighted.
Yes, you.
And
Oh, I can't wait to go to your reflection chamber.
Oh my god.
And
Please.
without even seeming to pause to realize that you can't easily follow, his arms come out, and you realize that though he has sort of human-like hands at the end of him, these are not just arms, and this is not a coat he was wearing. Those are his wings. He has sort of human hybrid
Kind of creepy, but
toucan wings. Yeah, it is kind of.
a harpy or something.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy. And he
Aarakocra.
just
Eric-
excitedly leaps off the side of the boat and starts flying.
Jonathan.
It's Jonathan. He just starts flying from your boat directly towards one of these massive floating fruit trees.
Okay, good. I was wondering if that would be a good place for us to be. Do we still have we didn't leave anything at our camp, did we? We had just stayed at a camp, but we didn't have we didn't.
Yeah,
set
I
up
think
a
I
camp
would.
that we
I think
had.
I would say you probably broke camp.
Yeah.
So
Air packs light.
yeah, I don't.
Freya doesn't, but she carries everything with her. So.
Yeah.
Fensel looks to you again and says, if you wouldn't mind assisting with the oars.
Certainly.
Samuel, as you can see, has a great deal of enthusiasm and not a great deal of restraint. So I will, I'll dock us.
You know.
Air before that happens, even though Air excitedly rubs her hands together and casts Fly and follows.
Ooh, nice.
I was
Showing
gonna
off.
say
Yeah.
I was gonna
Just
say
gonna
maybe a
try
little
this
show
out.
off is in order. Also, is kind of what Freya's thinking in her mind. So she might do it. She might do a little rage and see how fast she can.
Race
paddle
you
us
back.
over. Race it back.
Rage row all the way. To the
We're just going in circles.
No.
Yeah, because
no.
Fensel's on one side and you're on the
No.
other, just raging out.
Freya's gonna grab both. She's
All right.
she wants to do a little show off for him. She wants
Yeah.
to say, "Hey, we got some skills here. Things are good." She could actually probably read if she's raging, and she can just reach even both sides.
All right.
She can row herself.
I like it.
Okay.
You growl threateningly and grab the both oars.
And I stare straight at Rent when I do it.
Hard time.
Make an athletics check
Athletics
at
check.
advantage.
Okay.
While you're doing that, Air, I think, probably to the surprise of all the rest of you,
19.
certainly to the surprise and delight of Pando, Air
Yeah.
levitates off the deck of this boat and goes launching through the air after Samuel
She has a cheeky grin.
Well, that's
and a jaunty cap.
new.
Oh yeah. A little turn of the cap and she flies off.
Good day.
Good day, Chaya.
A tip of the cap and flies off after Toucan Samuel. The strength check,
19.
19. Okay.
Or the athletics. It was
Athletics
athletics
check,
check. 19.
All right. Yeah. So you kind of flex hard on this and dig these oars in deep, and the boat launches off at a brisk pace. Not I would say a superhuman pace necessarily, but it's moving very strongly, and you're doing a two-person job solo.
Yeah, the sheriff would stop you if you're in a no wake.
Yeah. And I think at first Rent kind of gives you a stare down, like what are you doing kind of thing. But I think after about 3-4 minutes of this continuing and you not really flagging and just keeping this up, there's a moment of like, there's like an eye contact moment of like two meatheads at the gym, kind of a like
Clunking weights.
respect.
Yeah.
All right, respect.
Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Plus, I know your daughter's name, and I'm gonna make it my personal mission to save her.
Very quickly, you arrive at one of the larger of these floating trees. This one has a fruit growing in it that looks very much like a largish purple pear. There are a lot of them. It's in full season, it appears. But weirdly, unlike real pears, they grow in almost banana-like clumps or clusters. So there's like 24 of them in sort of a spiral around a central sort of stalk hanging in different places around these trees. And they seem to be riper near the bottom of the tree and less ripe near the top of the tree. You don't know that for sure, I guess, without picking one and eating it or something. But the ones near the lower branches are the deepest, darkest purple, and the ones near the top are closer to like a yellow color with sort of a gradient as it goes down through the tree. Samuel flies straight at the trunk of this tree, sort of 3/4 of the way up the trunk. And right in front of you, Air, you see him, it looks like he impacts the side of the tree, but he doesn't. He just passes right through it.
Sure.
And as you get closer, you realize this is not actually an illusion. He didn't literally fly through an illusory trunk. There's just a fold in the trunk that's so well concealed that what looked like him just vanishing into the trunk was actually just sort of a trick of angles. But you really only could see, you would only be able to spot the entrance if you were at this level, so flying into it, and if you had seen him go in. Otherwise, you think you would have had a really hard time even knowing there was an entrance here. And you fly in right behind him. As you enter, you realize that not all of, but a pretty substantial portion of this tree is actually hollowed out. And while it's not massive, like it's sort of tight quarters, much of the space is a good 10 feet across.
Okay.
But this is set up as a comfortable space for birds and bird people. So it's like a comfortable sitting space, but vertically aligned. So there's perches and ledges all over in here. It's not like there's a floor with furniture to hang out. It's like if you flipped a room on its side and built it that way. So it's awkward. You definitely have to fly up and down a little bit before you find a place that you're comfortable standing on or sitting on, and maybe you experiment with kind of some different places. But there's a surprising amount of natural light in here that filters in through cracks in the trunk. Well, actually, let me retract that. It's nighttime, so that's not true. There's a little bit of sort of starlight and moonlight filtering through, but mostly it's dark as you enter until Samuel starts to light a few small lamps in the space. And the rest of you watch them kind of get out of sight, but as the boat pulls up, Fensel leads you to the side of the trunk where he kind of raps on the trunk here, raps on the trunk there, and then he turns to Yen and says, Where is that hidden knot? I can never find it. I know it's right around here somewhere. And she kind of just reaches past him. She goes, Dad. And she presses in on a sort of what looks like just a knot in the tree, right about at his eye level. Like it's right there. And it sinks in just slightly. and a section of the tree kind of swings out on a hinge. There's a hidden, very well concealed door here, and he steps inside and gestures you in. And inside you see what Air has just seen, but you're positioned down on the ground. You also, though, do notice that there is a very risky seeming spiral staircase that goes up a ways into this tree. And by staircase, I truly don't mean staircase. What I mean is just very small insets into the inner trunk of the tree that are steps apart. So almost the equivalent of if somebody had scooped out enough of a foothold there for someone to place their foot, and then above it another place where you could grab onto. So this would be the equivalent of sort of bouldering your way up the inside of this tree if you wanted to get to some of these various ledges. It will take some manual dexterity to navigate. There's a little bit of space down here on the floor, and obviously a concession to the non-flying folks who might visit. There are two small sort of wicker chairs down there and a small table. But as you come inside, Fensel turns to you and says, all of us, with the exception of Samuel, who is known to be eccentric and a wanderer, need to return to the village as quickly as possible. His eyes will be upon us shortly. However, you can communicate with us through Samuel when you're ready. We will want to be thoughtful about our planning, and because of the damage that you did in the community center, it is likely that we will have to calm him when he does emerge today. So it may or may not be to our advantage to act soon.
It's thoughtfully stacked in piles, so it should go back down in a relatively easy order. My apologies.
You did not know. And with that, they turn and depart, and you are left.
Ooh, what's the daughter's name?
Yen.
Yen. If you could draw that map of the space discreetly, when you have time.
So they depart, and you are left standing inside the hollowed out bowl of this massive floating fruit tree with a toucan man.
Yeah. What else is in there? Are there books or anything? Anything to suggest this man is a learned man?
Yeah. So this space is it's eclectic and wild. I mean,
Are there gadgets and gizmos? Are there?
no,
Plenty.
not so much gadgets and gizmos. There are
Who's it and what's it?
there are a lot of books.
Galore.
There are a lot of books, both bound books as well as like notebooks and scraps of
Loose
paper where he's
parchment, whatever.
loose parchment, scribbled notes, things like that. There's actually sort of like a slate, like a chalk
Oh, really?
slate in one area. On another level, there's what looks like a tea set and a little like a charcoal stove, very small charcoal stove. There are
This place sounds awesome. Actually.
empty and half-empty tea mugs all over.
Yeah.
All over. Like way more tea mugs than it's reasonable to expect. This is clearly a person who just gets more mugs instead of
That's
cleaning
the solution.
cleaning the mugs. And up near the top, I mean, you can see this fairly easily because you're still kind of flitting about. There is a gap at the top of the trunk that opens actually up into the crown of the tree, and there is a like a small looking glass, not that small actually, bigger than any you've seen like on a sailing ship, positioned so that it can see out through the boughs of the tree. And then just some knickknacks. So there's like leaves pressed together in thin parchment sheets. There's samples of things.
Insects.
Hard to
Insects
recognize.
pinned up on a whatever.
Yeah, actually, there are a number of insects in drawers.
Yeah.
But as you look at them, you realize fairly quickly these are not specimens, they're snacks.
Oh.
But yeah,
You're in the pantry.
yeah, this is a comfortable space,
Yeah.
but I will tell you very clearly it's not a living space. So this isn't where Samuel resides. There's nothing here that would sustain someone for any extended period of time. There's no bed or place to cook or any significant food. This is more like a nerdy philosopher's man cave.
Mm-hmm.
It's a private little sanctuary escape.
Does what's the evil elf man? What's his name again? Sorry.
Evil man?
Yeah.
Nick Evilman. No, Estereth. Estereth Tentathian.
Esther. I was gonna say Esther.
Tentathian. Does he? Samuel, is he aware that this exists here?
I do not believe so.
Mm-hmm.
Or at the very least, he's never made mention of it, and he's never been here that I'm aware. He's never been observed coming here. To be honest, most of the villagers have no idea this exists. This is just sort of my place.
Well, it's very nice.
Well,
Thank you.
So, is there anything else that you can tell us about his habits?
Right.
And do you have a place where I can set up a small workshop?
That depends very much on your needs. We are inside a tree, so if anything you're doing is flammable, you'll want to use great caution, because even though we are floating on a lake, the tree can definitely start on fire.
And I would imagine that would draw some attention.
Indeed. Also, sound carries across the lake very readily, so though we can speak to each other in here without any concern, if your experiments or the work you need to do is going to create a great deal of noise, we'll want to be very thoughtful before we do something like that. And last but certainly not least, the only open space I have is down there at the bottom. And you can see it's really not anything larger than like a 12-foot diameter circle of open space down at the bottom, where you're standing right now. This is what I have to work with, so we could clear these chairs and table to create some more space for you, but that's about all.
Perfect.
Unless you can, as your friend can, work vertically.
Well, as you can see, I'm
Vertically challenged.
vertically challenged. Ah, damn it!
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Thomas.
See, I 100% assumed that was air.
Oh,
Just dropping it in there, just flying right over your head and just sticking it from above. Vertically challenged. Awesome.
I'm gonna make a chemistry set.
Just pouts.
I'm going to use my right tool for the right job, and
Okay.
spend the next hour piecing together a chemistry set.
Well, so yeah, within that next hour, then it would be helpful if we could just talk a little bit, Samuel, just about what are his patterns, what are the, how long generally is this time in the evening when he sleeps or is not watching?
Yes.
Who
When
are
by-
these
yeah.
minions around?
Oh,
you know?
yes, the minions
Yeah.
specifically.
Yes.
I'll tell you what I can. We have taken to carefully rotating those who observe Tentathian during the day. He is surprisingly alert and aware of his surroundings, and of course he knows what form we take and is well aware that we retain our consciousness even when in those forms. So we do have to be cautious not to be seen. However, as time has gone on, he has grown, it seems, more and more arrogant and dismissive of us. He seems, from my perspective, convinced that we are no longer a threat, that we're fully cowed, as it were. And he may be right, sadly. However, he
does have some habits that we have observed. While he nearly never emerges from his sanctuary, he does emerge once per day, typically, for a short time. Usually in the midst of our cycle, close to what you would call noon. Either he comes out to briefly bathe in the lake, or to take a meal in the sunlight. If any of us are in sight during these times, we are punished. But it happens consistently enough that it's a recognized pattern. In fact, we specifically avoid those parts of the village at that time of day because he does not wish to see us. So this may provide an opportunity. There have been occasions when he has been called out of his haven. If we make enough of a racket, he will sometimes come to investigate, but every time we have done that in the past, we have been punished for it. So there will be great hesitation to do such a thing unless there was truly an emergency. The last time we did it because half of the village was aflame, and as much as we despised the man, we wanted to warn him. He still did not take it kindly. We were punished. The minions...
Just light it on fire.
Yeah.
Before you continue on, punished how?
Thank you. That's what I was
As Bottom just poked his head up real quick, because it's supposed to be uninterrupted work, but still listening. Radar ears. I learned that from my tabaxi friends.
He is creative with his punishments. He is a powerful magic user and seems to delight not only in the creative application of pain, but enjoys doing it publicly. As a reminder to all the rest of us what can happen. So these examples of punishments involved him choosing one of us from out of the crowd and applying his magics to harm them. They were always survived, but some have been disfigured. Others were just badly hurt. One of the most recent involved him burning the soles of a young man's feet while he held him in the air with a spell of some kind. We dare not strike back against him. 2 times we've actually tried to fight, he slaughtered most of the guards of the village, the strongest fighters among us. We didn't seem to have a chance. Rent mentioned minions. This is harder for me to describe because I've not seen them in person, but in the most recent confrontation, a group of the guards and some of the stronger members of the community attempted to attack him during the day in their bestial forms. They never got close. What I was told by those who managed to observe some of it is that the creatures who attacked, or the people who attacked, were not only killed by his spellcraft, but were also wrapped up in vines of some kind, or encircled by plants or fauna. He seemed to have some sort of control over the plants. We don't have a lot more details than that. To be honest, I don't even know if Rent's guess is accurate, if they're truly minions with some kind of independent ability to act, or if he simply took command in some way with his magic of the plants around him. But it seems as if he's not just a solo wizard. There's something that he has available to help him. We've not been able to overcome either him by himself or whatever is assisting him.
Well, he does have a portal in there that he can collect resources through.
A portal, you say?
Oh yes,
We
mirror
didn't mention that, did we?
about yay big. That is how he had the employ of another wizard, and who was doing my research, feeding him examples of my batteries, of, well, the crude versions of my batteries, which is what led us to your village, ultimately.
It's very interesting, and it actually explains a fair bit about a question I've long had, which is how someone could live in that space for well on to 5 years without really having to leave much at all. Now, myself, I enjoy quiet reflection as much as the next man, but one might go mad trapped in there all alone, not speaking to anyone, not interacting with anyone, no access to new books, or we provide him with all the food that he needs to survive, but if he's had access to the outside world this entire time, it would certainly explain a lot.
Can he go through the portal? I can't remember.
I didn't think it was big enough.
No,
Okay,
definitely
that's
too
right.
small.
They can hand stuff through.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so he has a period of time in the evening where or when you're first waking up, where he is not active.
Yes, our experience has been that for this brief time, when we are awaking, there's a time of transition where we really have never seen him or heard from him. So while we can't be certain, the assumption has seemed to bear out over the years that he's either not awake during this time or doesn't care to check on us. But it doesn't last. Usually by the time the sun is peeking over the trees and reflecting off the lake, he's at least made contact or has emerged entirely, demanding to see Fensel or...
Did you see him yesterday? Or, well, the day that we showed up?
I did not. But I was also not responsible for observing him yesterday. So I can't be sure if he was out and about.
It would be interesting because we really, essentially,
Distracted him?
fought that tree and then went to the village.
Yeah.
And I mean, we took 2 days to walk around this lake. We never saw anybody swimming. Even though we were, I mean,
I don't know if he would have.
we were observing the village.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and he didn't come out to, that we knew of. Does he know we're here? Yeah.
You know this. I may have landed on the door in a loud way.
Yes, that happened.
I was trying an experiment. It didn't work.
So, okay.
But nobody came through the door.
No, wasn't there was lots of knocking. They've knocked before. They've knocked before to get him to come out, right?
Correct.
And that's what I meant. Huh. Okay. So it's been a couple of days, huh?
No.
You wouldn't mind finding that information out for us if we just happen to miss him, or if it has been a day or so since he's...
I'm sure you know who was responsible for watching him.
I'll certainly ask around.
And also, it occurs to me as I was scraping this together, that it's essentially been a day and a half since any of us have gotten any sleep. As I was just going, you know what I should do? I should maybe try to identify this liquid by using my identify spell. Oh, I don't have any spell slots. Oh, that's right, because we fought a tree.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Oh man.
I landed on a door.
Yeah, y'all have been going for a while here, so I would imagine that exhaustion is creeping up just a little bit. At this point, it is what the villagers would consider midday, but it is also the middle of the night for you. So if you'd like to rest at this point, it's not a bad time to do that.
Should we take a long rest? Should we
Sure.
take a
Yeah.
long
I
rest?
think it's,
Makes sense, right?
and I feel that we are fairly contained, so we don't really have to keep a watch.
All right. Well then, why don't you go ahead and take a long rest? Before you actually go to bed, I think Samuel would just briefly coordinate with you sort of the plan or absence of plan for the following day, because again they're on an opposite time frame. So if you're gonna like wake
Do a
up
bunch of
in the
stuff.
morning, he wants to be able to communicate to the others that you've met your intentions. So he kind of anxiously says, and when you awake, I'll be a toucan, and will be unable to communicate directly with you in the way that I am now. I'll be essentially resting. Is there anything we need to be prepared for, or no? I'll gather the information that you're looking for, but please tell me now if you're planning to act in any way tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't think that I don't think that we are anywhere prepared to act at this moment. I would like to observe. I would like to see
Yeah,
this man. I would like to see him
I agree.
in his,
I was gonna say,
just his
what,
daily element.
how dangerous would it be just for us to come up upon him? This can't be the first time.
Well, he's kidnapped children, so
Yeah, but we're not children.
So-
going in blind, I think, is
Yeah.
dangerous.
It would be good to just know who's going to be observing him this next day, and if we can kind of just know if he's being seen around, just to have a day to observe.
Which we can then come up with a plan of: do we want to cause a distraction in the village to have him come out so that we can slip into his his space? Do we want to get in there first and see what he's working on? Be in his space when he comes back so that we can ambush him there?
Okay.
But how do we do that without the villagers getting hurt?
Or do we ambush him while he's swimming in the lake?
Freya can ambush him while he's swimming.
I'm trying to think of when he'd be most vulnerable.
Gator Freya.
Gator Freya.
Well, and
Death roll.
Gator Pando, who
Oh,
could
yeah,
actually
actual
be a
big
Be a
gator.
literal gator, yeah. She
Has
could.
she seen a gator?
I don't remember if it's on her list.
I'll draw her a picture.
I'll draw a gator.
The right tool for the right job. We'll see how far this can get us.
All right, so I think as you all are getting ready to rest, and sort of talking about this, I think Samuel at some point sort of leaves and does come back with a bit of the information for you. So he shares that the villager who was responsible yesterday for observing is actually a fishman.
Ooh, that's awkward.
He's sort of a werefish.
Because they sell fish. They catch and sell fish.
Yeah.
Ew.
That's my kid.
Well,
You ain't my kid.
there's a lot of different species of fish. I mean, there's
Sure.
there's a bunch of these werefolk living amongst
Maybe a
each other.
Swordfish.
Oh. Where sturgeon,
If you
He's a
will.
real bottom feeder, so can't catch those.
We only eat minnows.
But what you learn here is that the villagers believe that Tentathian is not actually aware that there are any aquatic villagers.
Ooh.
And so
that could be useful.
there are two of these. One who is like a fish man, and one who is sort of an amphibious dude, like an amphibious lizard kind of guy.
Okay.
Salamander?
Sure.
Maybe like a salamander.
Newt.
Yeah,
a
the newt.
newt. A newt.
No,
She turned me into a newt.
he's a were-axolotl.
Oh, yeah.
Axolotl.
Oh, yeah.
Axolotl.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
He
Like
is
the-
a
with
were-
the-
yeah, with the
Thingies.
frills, with the
Yeah.
gills.
Yeah, the gills.
I'm
a
delighted to be.
cute face.
I'm gonna say this with confidence. I'm delighted. I'm delighted to be the first DM to introduce a were-axolotl into a campaign.
Is that guy smiling at me?
He's always smiling.
Happiest guy here.
Always.
Not as much as Samuel.
Yeah,
So
they're the most
cute.
adorable.
They're
Yeah.
so cute.
Uh-huh. Also, we listened to a whole podcast about them on the way back from Minneapolis the other day.
Oh, really?
They are critically endangered in the wild,
Oh, really?
but have a massive population worldwide because they are not only one of the most common laboratory animals, they're incredibly useful to experiment on because of their genetics, and because they're incredibly popular pets.
Oh, really?
And super easy to reproduce in captivity. Like you can just
Freaking rabbits, man.
yeah, they're crazy. But in the wild they only live in one tiny lake in Mexico. That's their whole habitat worldwide. And so the wild axolotls are like almost gone. But meanwhile there's like millions of them. Crazy.
Shame.
Anyway, were-axolotl and were-fish of a species I don't care about.
So where axolotl?
Yeah.
This is just I guess it would be a were sturgeon then. We'll balance it out. We
Were
got the really
axolotl?
ugly one. We got the one that is kind of grumpy.
Were
we got the
sturgeon.
were axolotl.
Yeah.
Who's, oh, hi guys.
So because
I did watch him swim.
because those guys actually never come out of the lake, the villagers believe that Tentathian is unaware of them, and so they do a lot of the observation.
Sure.
Unfortunately, their ability to observe is very limited
Right.
because they have to stay in the lake. So they basically know, did he go swimming or did he bathe?
Or did he sit on a rock and eat his lunch next to the shore?
Right. So their ability to contribute is limited. However, the were sturgeon was on duty last time. Melf the were sturgeon.
Seems right.
Yeah, and now I have to write that down because one of you will ask me
I
about
believe it's Melfalinsky.
Melf. Well,
Melf.
Melf is a nickname.
Melinsky, the
Melfalinsky.
were-sturgeon.
Yeah.
Sturgeon.
Now Melf the were sturgeon is canon. I just have to write it down because one of you will ask me about what was that were sturgeon's name again?
Oh, right.
Because I know. And what kind of
Yeah,
candy
it was a
was
Polish name or something.
Yeah. Melf. Melf the were sturgeon did see Tentathian bathe yesterday. He did. But it was earlier in the day than he was accustomed to seeing him. And so whether or not that tells you anything,
Yeah, not sure what to make of that.
Turns out that we were fighting the tree when this happened and we just missed it.
I suppose.
Makes sense of why the tree was out there and attacked us. Because it was guarding him while he was swimming.
Okay.
Good
Which means that
explanation
you
of
were
the name.
swimming at the same time.
Kind of exciting.
Really
Kind of exhilarated.
kind of scary.
Dangerous.
Now, I will just add to this that, again, the lake is
Massive.
Lo-
Right.
well, it's not I mean, not massive compared to like lakes we think of around here, right? But it's a large enough lake that if you're standing on one shore looking across to the far shore, without like a looking glass or something like that, or without really excellent vision, it's not going to be easy to make things out, and it's not like you can just call out across the lake and be like, hey. And the floating trees are prevalent enough that as they float around, they block a great deal of visibility, and they move very slowly. So it's not improbable that he could have been out there in the lake and that you could have been where you were and just not seen or interacted with each other. That's not necessarily fact. I'm not telling you this happened, but it's not outside the bounds of possibility.
So we just run on the assumption that we missed each other. The fact that you would think that if he knew that we were here, that there would be...
Take an action of some sort.
He would have taken an action of some sort.
I would think, yeah.
Or just thought that we were some simple-minded adventurers and couldn't get through a locked door and that we've buggered off now.
That's very possible, too. I bet he clearly thinks very highly of himself and very little of other people, so...
Why did I write down arcane keyed to the life energy of an individual? Why did I write that down?
Arcane
And then I
key
wrote
to life
Astra
energy
Pentathian underneath it. What was that from?
Wait, this session? No, previous. Yesterday, last session.
That was just on a piece of paper here.
The great mysteries of lore, as captured by Katie.
So we've got two missions. We got to figure out how to get through this locked door and this riddle.
It just seems like there was something.
This riddle isn't for your
Arcane key
characters,
To the life
it's for
energy of
you.
an individual, and then I wrote underneath it Astra Tentathian, and that was from our previous session.
I wish Courtney was here.
I thought, no wonder his name sounded familiar to me. Did we? Were there like runes or something that we were looking at before, like in the...
Oh, yeah. Well, you closely examined the lock.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you actually cast Identify on the lock? Maybe that's what you did. I really should. This is why I hate not listening to the episode
Right,
before.
'cause
When
I
it's
definitely-
been this
there
long
was-
since we played.
I was like, Astra Tentathian, I've heard that name before. Oh yeah, because we talked about him in the last one and I wrote him down on my piece of paper.
Yeah.
But yeah, along with arcane keyed to the life energy.
I don't
of
think
an
that I cast Identify on the lock. I think that there is ruins that we were...
looking at.
Yeah.
I think that there were some runes that we were looking at or something, or that I was, and yeah.
I believe where this is coming from, and I'll go back and listen to the recording, and we'll retcon it if I'm wrong right now. But
Okay.
I believe what happened was, upon close examination of the lock, whether it was the Identify spell or not, maybe it was just a stupid High Arcana check or something, because you're good at those now.
I've always been good at those.
Yeah, but you've been rolling stupid lately.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
it's true.
I believe that you, first of all, recognized that this was an arcane lock, that it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't just a normal physical lock, but had these arcane properties, but that you had also recognized the type of arcane lock, that this was one that a regular key wasn't going to open because the key itself is tied to this person's life energy.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe I gave you his name as a part of that.
You totally did.
That like his name was in the runes.
Yeah.
Was it like
I
embedded
totally
in the
wrote
runes?
his name down. Yeah, Astra.
So there you go.
Okay. Thanks.
It's hard to not roll stupid with a +8.
Well, yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Right.
Okay. So at this point, we're gonna say the party is bedding down.
Mm-hmm.
When we play next, you can, as a group, decide what you want to do and move
Ambush him while
forward.
he's bathing. That's the plan.
Well, there's that.
Distract, sneak in. We have a lot of things, I guess, we can talk about.
Freya's great at creating a distraction. Well, Potom could possibly get in there if it's open.
Mm-hmm.
You
The
know.
classic Freya bang pots.
Whoa!
Jump around.
Whoa! I slipped and fell.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. No.
Got documented proof that she's very good at this. Maybe have Freya put on some kind of performance.
Well, and this is what we can also talk about
Put on rollerblades.
in our own little group chat on Discord
Yeah.
Yeah.
of like tactics of
Yeah. I
what
think that's a great
what's
idea.
next. Do we? I mean, do we ambush him while he's in the lake?
I'm just thinking, I would not want to be ambushed while I was bathing.
Right. I mean, I can't imagine that. I can't
Especially
imagine
by a
that.
dragonborn that looks like an alligator and an actual alligator.
Can't imagine that a wizard is swimming with his spell book.
Right.
It's true too. Could get wet.
And so, if he's a wizard and he's got a spell book and spell components,
Yeah.
it's two things that are hard to take into the water with you.
And truthfully, we have the ability to kind of wait. If he decides not to bathe one day, we have the ability to kind of watch and, have our were sturgeon let us know if he,
And I'm sure that there's a were ferret with were ferret children that are really good at stealing clothing from the shore.
Yeah.
So the edge you're
fine.
gonna give yourself is you're gonna
him
fight him
naked.
naked.
Yeah. That's,
Yeah.
That's
we're
kind
gonna
of the
take his
plan.
we're gonna
In
take
the
his
water.
clothes.
in the water.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Pillar 2 of our strategy is make sure he's got to fight naked.
I mean,
Pillar 1, ambush him in the water. Just make sure he can't get back to shore and get dressed. That's pillar 2.
I mean, he
I like it.
probably takes off, powerful magic rings or something. I don't know. There's so many good.
Yeah, he probably strips himself of all magical protections before he gets in the lake. This seems like the way I think about setting up boss combats. You're right.
This was a really cheap wine in Guatemala. It's called El Champion, and I believe you have to drink it naked while wrestling a bull.
Yeah. I don't know any other
nice,
way
yeah.
to drink it.
There's nothing else to do except
I
that.
like
Yeah.
that. I like
It says
that.
so on the bottle.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to pause it here as you blow out the small lamps inside this hollow tree and sort of curl up in your bedrolls pretty cozily, the four of you, I would say,
It's been a while. yeah.
along with a big metal man in a 12-foot wide room. But you are able to get a full night's rest and awaken at the dawn? Like, what's your... We'll talk about that when we come back.
Yeah.
But enough for a long rest, so we'll wrap it here.